Welcome to Crown Level Confidence with Kalia Janae, the podcast where we empower and inspire you to achieve unstoppable confidence and self-belief. I'm your host, Kalia Janae, a wife, mom, entrepreneur, as well as a certified life coach and motivational speaker with a background in humanities and communication. I'm excited to navigate this transformative journey with you. In each episode, I'll bring you candid conversations, practical tips, and inspiring stories from remarkable women who have conquered many challenges and risen to new heights. Get ready to have your crown straightened as we listen, learn, and laugh together so we can level up. Let's dive in. All right, everyone, welcome to this episode of Crown Level Confidence, where we are leading women worldwide to lower their stress and raise their level of confidence. Get excited, y'all. Listen, okay. Y'all can't see, because I have these conversations face to face and we bring y'all the audio. You guys cannot see how gorgeous my next guest is. You have to look at her picture. You have to follow her on social media so you can really get a sense of who she is. I'm going to introduce her in a second, but I just have to tell you, she's beautiful, okay? This is Chrystol Wilson-Payne. Chrystol, say hey.
Hello.
Doesn't she sound amazing? Okay, listen. Focus, everybody, focus. So Chrystol Wilson-Payne, a seasoned writer and licensed professional counselor, draws from nearly 2 decades of experience working with diverse individuals, couples, groups, and families. Let me tell you, I can see her and she doesn't look like she's been doing anything except living for 2 decades, okay? As a military brat, she was raised across the United States and Okinawa, Japan, which uniquely equips her to connect with people from all walks of life. Chrystol, an introvert at heart, derives immense joy from forming meaningful connections. Her pursuits include writing for online publications, managing a personal blog, organizing self-care challenges on Facebook, conducting parent workshops, delivering corporate talks on work-life balance, and community volunteering. Her ultimate passion lies in inspiring individuals to unleash their full potential, a mission embodied in her private practice, Journey to Better LLC, her role as a co-host on the Chill Out Mama podcast, and her insightful content shared on social media platforms. Chrystol extends her impact through her guided journals that support readers on their journey to self-improvement, addressing stress management, anxiety reduction, joy enhancement, communication improvement, intimacy deepening, and parent-child relationships. With a blend of truth, love, humor, and compassion, she empowers you to become your best self. Woo! Didn't I tell y'all she is amazing? Chrystol, welcome. We're so happy to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for that all that personality and reading that bio. I was like, okay, that sounds nice. Who is that?
That's the only way I know how to do things, girl. The crown level, okay?
Well, I got you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, we've got to get to know a little bit about you in that amazing introduction that you provided. So, but tell me, what prompted you to write Embrace the Calm? Just tell us all about that.
So like I said, I've been a therapist for almost 20 years. And, that's one-on-one therapy for the most part. So, occasionally I'll do groups and workshops and things like that. And I just felt prompted, I believe it was the Holy Spirit, you can reach beyond your one-on-one interactions. And from what I'm seeing, especially with women in my practice, there's just this increase of stress, anxiety. So many high-performing, especially Black women, have this perfectionism that just keeps us from really enjoying our lives. And so I can't see everybody in my practice. That's just not possible. I was like, what do I do? Even if I have groups, I still can't see all those people in the groups. So it's like, write something. So I was a little intimidated by actually writing a book, although I have many books in my head.
Yeah, of course.
It's going to happen. But he was like, it's something that you can get done. Because that's really what I've been working on too. We were kind of chatting about this before we even started recording, this perfectionism. That's I can't put something out unless it's top tier. Oprah's going to have to want to read it. It has to
make it the list.
Right.
Reese is calling me.
Right out the gate. That's how it's got to be for me. And I was like, No, he said, do something like a journal, because this is what I actually encourage a lot of my clients to do, is start writing their own thoughts to get to know themselves better. That's the greatest gift of therapy, is self-awareness. And you can't gain that if you don't actually write it down or ask yourself questions. So I usually will, within the first couple of sessions, I'll tell them, go get a cute journal, a nice pen. This is going to be your therapy journal. Okay. So you're going to process what we talk about afterwards. And I'm always going to give you some homework, something to think about. And I want you to use the next week to write about that. And so that's what I did in Embrace the Calm. It's specifically for overwhelmed women who want to cultivate joy and reduce stress. And it's filled with mindful activities, writing prompts. I have coloring pages in there for relaxation. There's blank pages just to jot down what you're thinking about. And it's like having a little piece of having me as a therapist, in this journal. So that's what prompted me to do it. And that's what Embrace the Calm is.
That sounds amazing. Okay, so we're going to remind everyone where they can get their hands, because it's a physical journal, where they can get their hands on your journal before we end the conversation. But I want to know, what are you seeing in your counseling practice as it relates to the stress in women? I know that let me just put my 2 cents in before I fully answer the question. But, because in our society, we get pulled in so many different directions, right? Like, we have these standard perceptions of what's dictated to us about what a woman is and what a woman does and how we're defined and how we're to show up and posture ourselves and do this and do that and to serve and whatever. And so, but then there's this whole other pendulum of, I'm independent, you can't tell me nothing, And then for a lot of us, I'm a millennial. So we are looking around like, all right, well, my parents were, either boomers or Gen X, and I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not Gen Z or anything else. And we're just kind of like, I could go either way. What do I want to do? So all of that is stressful, even just describing it. So what are you seeing when you're meeting with women in today?
Well, everything you just said, like, I'm an elder millennial, so I'm in the little zennial category. So we're doing the same thing. We're like, we definitely are. I don't identify with them. But some of the stress, I would say specifically, even in that generation of women, and our generation of women, is the things that we were told to do that was going to give us that life that we're supposed to have, most of the time did not pan out. So just for an example, like, I love A Different World, right? Yes. It was like, that's my favorite show. So education is the great equalizer. They're going to respect you if you have that degree. Not necessarily.
I grew up in California, by the way. It was not the same.
Yeah, so it's like, not necessarily. Like, I have 2-3 degrees, and it doesn't mean I'm not successful, but the way they posed it to us isn't the way it really came out. And so there's some disappointment, or there's always this sense of I have to do more. There's a sense I have to prove myself to the world, even just specifically as a Black woman, but as a woman in general, like that I can be feminine and soft and be a boss, and I have to be all that at the same time, right? And so that stress. There's other things about, like, lack of boundaries, not knowing how to say no. There's a lot of women that struggle with just being able to say no freely with no explanation.
Right. It's a whole statement.
It's no period. It's just a period after the end of it, right? And many of us were not taught to have agency over our time, over our energy, over our bodies, any of that, to confidently say no. And when you're always saying yes, that means your time is always being infringed upon. That causes stress, because then what is your life if you're only doing for others, right? And so that leads us to, like, a lack of self-care, or not really embracing rest. So if you talk about hustle culture, you have to have all these degrees, and you have to start a business, and then you have to be an entrepreneur and work and go up the corporate ladder, all these things. Again, all at the same time. Oh, we haven't even thrown in motherhood,
right?
And marriage. Right? We haven't even put that in there.
Yes, no.
Right. While you're achieving these things, hey, why aren't you in a relationship? When are you going to have kids? So there's just all these expectations,
how do you know how to cook
and all these shoulds. Yeah, all these shoulds that many of us are trying to live by, and it causes stress on our mind, body, and spirit. And that's what I'm seeing in a lot of women. And I mean, I'm seeing women even in their 20s now, like younger women that are like, I'm behind. I'm like, you're only 25. What do you think you're supposed to be doing? Mm-hmm. And what's an added stressor is social media for like the younger generation now, because people can put forth this image that everything is perfect, or that I am doing it all at the same time. And then other people feel like they're behind. So there's a plethora of things, but just in general, in the last 3 years, the stress rate of women has continued to uptick. Mm-hmm. It's always been like twice that of men, but it continues to increase. Mm-hmm. It's always, and then you add in different racial groups, things like that, other things that are affecting them, and they're even more stressed. So, and that's going to affect our physical health. So that's really one of the reasons why I wanted this to be one of my first guided journals for my sisters out there, because we got to get this under control for our health and our overall well-being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true. You know, you can't address what you don't acknowledge, right?
Right.
And so that is huge, because you have to be able to, you can't do anything about it, again, if you won't admit that it's a thing. And so I know in my life, I'm very transparent about my journeys through having overcome, or even just battling in general, severe anxiety and depression, right? Mm-hmm. And I still remember to this day, my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, was with me at the doctor, and the doctor was like, oh, describe your life. And I was like, all right, cool. And I just said all the things, right, that we do. It's all the things. I was there because I kept having these physical problems that no one could figure out. So he was like, okay, describe your life. Bet. And then he was like, all right, well, it was a list of the things, right?
Yeah.
It was a long list of the things.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
He was like, okay, that's things, but I asked you to describe your life. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then so the doctor was like, there's this thing called stress, and you feel like you have a lot of it. And I was like, no, I'm very happy. I don't know what you're talking about. And he was like, okay, but I didn't say that you didn't have happiness. I said that you also had a lot of stress. And I'm sitting there looking at my boyfriend, who's white, you know, and he's looking at me, and the doctor, I want to say, was Middle Eastern. So there's just these dynamics, right?
Yeah, there's so much going on in the room.
Yeah. I'm in the hospital room, and I'm like, it's just still going over my head, and it was like a little intervention in the room, and they're both looking at me like, Kalia, you are everywhere and nowhere at the same time, and your body is literally breaking down. And this is why you've been to the ER this many times. This is why you keep having this, why you have so many prescriptions. This is why. And I just was in denial. I was like, no, but I still like look good. Like in my mind, I had it all together. I'm the person that everyone comes to solve their problems, to do this, to that. I'm so dependable. You call Clea. Yep, I got it. No problem. I'm serving every week in church. Like I was everywhere, getting promoted at work. And
all the things.
The person you are is struggling, and it's manifesting, and that's why your body is reacting the way it is. So I recall that, and I share that experience because I guess I never really was educated up until that point as to what stress actually was. So can you, in your, personal and professional opinion, what is stress actually? It was something we talk about. We just throw that out there, and it's kind of like everyone fills in the blank into their imagination, but I want you to really make it clear to our listeners what actually is stress, and then we could talk about why that's a problem.
Yeah, okay. So the actual definition of stress is the state of worry or mental tension. I'm going to add in physical tension that's caused by a difficult situation. Right. So a lot of people will be like, "Oh, that's life."
Right. Like, what? I woke up like this.
Yeah. Why is that a problem? The problem comes in is when it's prolonged. Stress is supposed to be temporary. It's supposed to be, so you're faced with a difficult situation in this moment. Stress, we have stress hormones, like, everything increases, blood pressure, all that, in order for us to focus on a particular situation and deal with it and resolve it. And then we should go back to a healthy baseline. What happens is that many of us we just stay in that heightened stress state, and it becomes our norm, which means high blood pressure becomes our norm. Not sleeping well becomes our norm. Digestive problems become our norm. Worrying all the time becomes our norm. And then we, as you just said, it's like we go into a place of denial that this is not healthy because we learn how to just function there, not necessarily live well there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We just learn how to survive and live well there.
Survive.
So, and I think a lot of, we just survive it. And so stress and anxiety is like this too. We do need a certain level of stress or anxiety in order to perform. Mm-hmm. Because like I said, it means something is important to us. Mm-hmm. But there's a threshold that we cross over when it comes to either the level of stress or anxiety or the amount of time that you've been stressed or anxious.
Yes.
That's where it becomes problematic.
Yeah. And I think these are conversations that are so vitally important for our communities, because as women, let's break this down. As women, we are conditioned to take care of ourselves last in almost every culture that I can think of. And, I, like you, I'm a military brat. I'm from San Diego specifically, but I've interacted with a lot of different cultures. Okay. So I can pretty much think of almost every culture where you're putting yourself last. Like that's like the thing, right? Like I take care of every minute, right? And we're conditioned to do that. And then, some of us are also conditioned that, selfishness, or selfish is a dirty word. Right?
Mm-hmm. Like in self-care, they get that.
Put yourself first.
Selfish.
What?
Right.
Yes, I am. And so, and then when you think about now, there's this buzzword of soft life. I feel like right now in where we're at in society, and it's like this thing is kind of glamorized, like I'm living my soft life, and it's kind of like a them thing in terms of being a woman of color. That's like, oh well, that's a privileged thing. And so for me, again, I've only lived my own life, right? So I can share with everyone listening my way of navigating all of this, right? So I go through some very traumatic things in my life from like 2011 through 2015, right? And then I just operate in this space of like survival, right? Looking good doing it.
Always
excelling and achieving, but just in a severe survival. So I got used to it, right? Mm-hmm. And then, through a series of circumstances, boom, I collide with my now husband, my boyfriend at the time. Didn't even want to be like in love with him, but I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And he's just kind of like helping me peel these things back. But again, we've got a whole different issue of race. So for me and him both kind of overcoming, and this is in the crux or the beginning of Black Lives Matter. Yeah. So all these different layers, right? Yes, and we're coming together, and thank God, literally, that we have a foundation of faith. So that's been our clue, our main attraction. But I'm painting this picture, y'all, because my husband, and I always say this, my husband met me at like the worst possible point in my life.
Wow.
And that's not what you would expect, right? When you're trying to posture and date and attract like a husband or a boyfriend, it was the worst possible time in my life. And I always think about this, and I think about my life now. We've been married 5 years. Mm-hmm. And I think like, oh, the kind of life I live now is seen as like that stuff that like privileged white women do.
Yeah.
And a lot of, and I'm setting all this up because this is a conversation that needs to be had where it's like, well no, like I'm just a woman who happens to be married to a white man, but he loves me because I'm me, right? Yes. He didn't have white knight savior thing. I don't have any self-hate because I'm Black. Like we met at church, like a predominantly Black church, mind you. But it was just, all these different things that people will try to stigmatize and project onto you. And so for me, again, I've only lived my own life. I share all these different details and put them out there because it's like, well, no. Every woman, regardless of her race or cultural heritage, deserves to be with someone who loves them, deserves to be with someone who's like, let's get this stress off of you and let's help you get, your God-given purpose together. And it doesn't have to do with this perception of like, again, culture or race. And we need to lean in to the fact that we can be strong women and live a softer, stress-free life. Like, why are we taking on these burdens? Why are we martyring ourselves and like, oh, I'm so tired. I did all this and this and this and that. Okay.
Yeah, and you know what? I encourage every Black woman I talk to stop using the word strong and use powerful.
Yes.
It's not about strength, because strength wears out. The reason why we try to carry so much is because we're using the word being a strong Black woman. That means we have to carry burdens, not just our own, but everybody else's, because we have all the muscles, right? We have all the muscles to do it. No, we don't. And we were not built.
And even if I did, carry your own. Go to therapy.
We were not built for that, and that's not my job, so that's going to be a no, right? And that means we have the power of saying yes and no, and we have the power to make choices that are best for us, the power to cultivate a life that's filled with joy. And I had a very similar experience to you, in my marriage. I ended up being a stay-at-home mom for almost 5 years, and like every time I was at, maybe at the park or something like that, I might have been like one of the few Black women there, or when I did talk maybe to another Black woman, they'd be like, "You're okay with that?" I'm like, "Yeah, my children need me." It's like, I want to invest this time in them. I'll be able to get back to work at some point, and it's okay. I still know my value.
Right.
As a person, as a woman, whether I'm productive or I'm getting a degree. And that's another reason why so many of us do feel this undue stress, is that, again, we're trying to prove something to who? Like, who's they? Right. And why do they matter so much?
Forget them.
What works for you in your life? And what if you could truly embrace rest and calm and peace, and your husband has his role and you have your role? Like, that's okay. And if you are happily single and you want to travel the world and you want to have all these experiences, if that brings you joy, like letting everyone have what they have in their life and fulfill their joy. That's what all this is about. So again, like you just said, not trying to take on what society is telling us we're supposed to be, or what we're not supposed to be as certain kinds of Black women. Definitely. Or certain kinds of women in general.
Right. So this, I love these conversations. I would say the hardest part of them is that they end so quickly. And so just really quickly, Chrystol, what are some tips for reducing stress and increasing joy? And I say really quickly because we're running out of time. So if you could just share just like the most important, one or two of those things, like what do our listeners need to know? They're like, okay, got it. You told me I'm stressed out. What am I going to do about it?
Okay. So if that's the person I'm talking to who just said that, what I want you to do is pause, embrace pausing, and take a deep breath. So you inhale through your nose and blow it out. Inhale and exhale. And see what your body is telling you. Where is there tension? Were your shoulders up at your ears and now they're lower? Right?
Yeah.
Did you have some tension in your back and now you feel a little bit less? So when you just take a moment, pause, breathe, it connects you with your own humanity. And that is something you can control in that moment. If you're surrounded by stress, you're surrounded by things you can't control, take a deep breath, ground yourself, and then decide your next move. And your next move might be to go lay down.
Yes. Absolutely. Perfect. So I feel like that was our final word, but you know what? I don't want to speak for you, Chrystol. So every episode we have what's called the final word. And you get to either reiterate something you've already shared, or maybe God's placed something else on your heart that you want to make sure. And so the final word is, in these episodes, we are serving women on the go. All right. So they just parked. They're about to get out the car. And it is what you want them to remember specifically from your voice to their ears from this episode, your final word.
You don't have to earn rest.
Ooh, I'm gonna write that down.
You do not have to earn rest. It's required. God rested to enjoy his work and to enjoy what he created. You deserve rest. You need rest. Your body literally needs rest in order to function at its best. So you don't have to earn it. Just give it to yourself when you need it, and even when you just want it.
Wow. I feel like that's a segue to a whole other extra episode. We have to have Chrystol come back.
Bonus episode? Are we going to do a bonus episode later?
I feel like we will need a reprieve because, wow. She said, you don't have to earn rest. I mean, wow, I could carry that on for a minute, but out of respect for our listeners' time and your time as well, Chrystol, we're going to wrap it up. So listen, you guys know I always link the information as to how you can get in touch with our featured guests. And in this case, we have Chrystol Wilson-Payne here. Chrystol, let everybody know where they can get your guided journal.
You can order on Amazon. Just type in Embrace the Calm. It'll pop right up. Be the first one there. It's here. I'll show. It's pretty.
It is pink. Pretty.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, calming scene. And I said, Embrace the Calm, a guided journal for overwhelmed women to cultivate stress, cultivate joy, and reduce stress.
Perfect.
On Amazon.
Awesome. So we'll have that link for you as well. And for those of y'all who are in the Crown Level Confidence Between the Episodes Facebook group, okay, you should be able to click on everything from there directly as well. Also connect with Chrystol, ask your questions. If you know you need professional help, and I mean this in the most sincere way, professional help, don't inbox her trying to just quote unquote pick her brain. Make an appointment or do all the necessary things you need to do, okay? We come correct in this community. We respect each other's professions. So don't just think she's about to counsel you for free. If she decides to, take on a project or whatever, that's great. But we don't have those expectations. So y'all make sure you catch the episode of her Chill Out Mama podcast and just get involved in everything she has going on, because she is here to serve. And we are so truly blessed that you spent this time with us, Chrystol. Thank you so much for being part of our community.
Thank you for having me. This was truly a blessing to me as well. So, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, y'all, this has been this episode of Crown Level Confidence, a podcast where we are leading women worldwide to, reduce their stress and raise their levels of confidence in their everyday lives. So thank y'all for listening. Thank you for tuning into another empowering episode of Crown Level Confidence with Kalia Janae. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found it both insightful and inspiring. If you'd like to be a featured guest on the show and share your journey of confidence and self-belief, please reach out to me at podcast@kaliajanae.com. I'm always eager to connect with remarkable individuals who have a story to tell. And for those interested in connecting with me for speaking engagements or mindset coaching, you can find more information on my website, kaliajanae.com. I'd love to hear from you and explore how we can work together to inspire and empower others. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode filled with actionable tips and heartfelt stories. If you enjoyed today's episode, I truly appreciate it if you could leave a review on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and inspire even more people to straighten their crowns. Remember, your journey to unstoppable confidence is a continuous adventure. I'm happy to support you every step of the way. Keep believing in yourself, keep shining, and always wear your crown with pride. Until next time, this is Kalia Janae, your host, signing off. Stay confident, stay empowered, and keep leveling up.